Okay. Hey, Joseph, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you, Douglas.
Thank you for coming on the show. I appreciate it.
Oh, I appreciate your inviting me. Thank you very much as well.
So, you've got a book out called Totus, spelled Totis, and
Correct.
it sounds really interesting. This is a sort of a what if all of these people, Socrates, Leonardo da Vinci, Isaac Newton, would have a conversation with each other and what they might say. Is that the premise?
That it's set up that way. Imagine not just those people, but the whole gamut of humanity, the great thinkers, the great scientists, the explorers. If they had their say, it would lead us to the modern world we live in today. That's what this modern world is built on. So the book takes place amongst a small group of people, and those scientists represent, they're a composite of a much larger group of people. But in essence, yes, that's exactly what this is. It's a symposium of great minds discussing essentially what is real, what is reality, what is truth.
When I read through your bio, immediately what came to mind was The Matrix, where, the question of what is real and what is not real. And in that movie, it was computer generated, everybody's
Mm-hmm.
reality, right? Which
Mm-hmm.
isn't that far away from where we're living right now, I don't think, because some people live in the world of online as their reality. That's not exactly what you're talking about, right?
No, no, it isn't. But I'll just say one thing about the Matrix. And there are, these fables live in every culture. The Matrix really is built on something called the brain in the bottle thought experiment. And amongst biologists and physicists and other scientists, there's this idea that you should be able to take a human brain, put it in a bottle, hook it up to a computer that will simulate the input from the five senses and create for that brain a whole world. It will not know the difference between the so-called real world and the world they're creating for it in the computer. It's an interesting idea, and we can see how it might be something that could happen, maybe with some civilization more advanced than us. And I won't get into that, but we don't need to do that because that's exactly who we are. We are biosimulating, reality simulating biosensory machines. That's what we do. And in the book Totus, these thinkers go to great lengths to talk about the process of human perception, how we make sense of the stimulus that comes in from the world, how we interpret it, and what it means.
There was an episode of Star Trek that I remember that they had brains in jars connected to computers back in the
Mhm.
60s. So this has been around for a while.
It has been around for quite a long, long while. And if you think about dreams, they are brains in a jar. When we're dreaming, we're not hooked, we're in bed. Our stimulus is blanket sheets and maybe a breeze or something. And what we're doing is we're flying, we're underwater, there are monsters chasing us. This stuff's as real can be.
Yeah.
And so it's not something outside of uh, our own experience to have these kinds of experiences about the world around us.
Well, it's interesting you bring up dreams because I am a very vivid dreamer. And on occasions, I have had the dream within a dream.
Oh, wow, that's great.
And, I've talked about it a little bit, but it is so real. In fact, when I woke up from those dreams within a dream,
Hmm.
it took me like a day to really just get over the fact that it was actually a dream because
Hmm.
I would have sworn that I was there. And I can still
Hmm.
remember it today. And it was like 2 years ago that it happened.
Hmm.
So let's just talk a little bit about this perception. I know that even like Shakespeare wrote things, all the world is a stage and the people merely are its players. And
Hmm.
other people have suggested that your reality or the reality is only your perception of what's out there. People can look at things completely differently, have completely different opinions on the same object. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, if you will. How do we determine what is actually real, or is anything actually real?
So the word totus I coined in this book, and it's a combination of two words: totus, which is Greek for totality, a totality, and is for being. And totus, as far as I am concerned, and I'll explain why in a second, is the source reality of the universe. It is what this universe is built of. It is what it supports the entire universe. Now, our experience of reality, which is our access to reality, because we're biological beings. You know, our fingers, they touch something, but they send a signal to our brain. That's how we know we're touching something. And all the senses are the same way. We experience a world that is created in our central nervous system through all of the stimulus that comes to us. I call this antis reality. And that's also a Greek word, antilepsy, which means sensation, and then is the being built on sensation. Now, these are two separate realities. Antis reality is completely and utterly dependent on totus reality. It cannot exist without totus reality. Totus reality it depends on nothing at all. It is source. Everything else depends on totus reality. And when we can understand, when we can kind of tease these two apart, because normally living, we think our antis reality is actually real, but it's an interpretation. It's a biosensory interpretation. It's a product of our biosensory system. And as an interpretation, as we know, an interpretation is not the same as the thing itself, just as a picture of a peach is not a peach. And that's the difference between antis and totus reality. And that's the way we live in the world as biology. And biology, as far as anybody knows, is the only matter in the universe that has an experience of reality. Snowflakes, atoms, water, they don't have experiences of reality. They are in a way that we can't experience because they don't experience anything. And it's a very tricky world to straddle these two realities, the one that's created in our brain and the one that actually is, that we can't experience because it's not about experience. It's outside of all of that kind of stuff.
Well, while you were saying that, the word agreement popped into my head. And as a human race, and maybe even with other species like dogs and cats, we are all in agreement on certain things to be real. For example, fire. If I touch fire, I'll burn myself. I can feel pain. Similarly with a dog. If a dog touches fire, they're going to yell and scream. Cats as well, right? So
That's true.
The reality of fire being hot and can hurt you is something that we as humans agree on, and other species agree on that as well, right? Could we agree that that is in fact real?
Here's the deal. So the first question is fire hot? Well, we have to ask what's hot. Well, hot is an energy quantity within some given space and with some given materials. We, as biology, can live in this tiny little environment. If we get too cold, we die. If we get too hot, we die. And so within that, our biology gives us certain feelings. Too much heat, we have a lot of pain. Too much cold, we're going numb. And way too much of it, we know we're going to die, and the biology wants to get out of it. But the real question is whether fire is hot or not. The real question is if there's fire, and fire's let's not think of fire, let's think of lava, because that's pretty hot stuff. And I say that because fire, we usually associate it with burning trees, which is another living creature. But if we're looking at lava, so we have hot lava boiling out of a volcano, is it hot? If we're not here, the rock doesn't care if it's hot or not. What's the rock going to do? It's not going to do anything. Only when you put a biological entity in the process, suddenly it's hot, it's killing me. There's a whole world develops around that. All kinds of emergencies evolve. All kinds of feelings are elicited around this thing called hot, which isn't hot at all. It's hot to us. But in the universe, we go from 0 degrees Kelvin, where nothing moves, to I don't know what the hottest hot can be, but probably right after the Big Bang was pretty hot.
Maybe
And yet
the center of the sun might be,
might be pretty damn hot.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. But again, so the center of the sun's really hot, but that's normal for the sun. Hey, I'm having a great day here, blowing up, turning hydrogen to helium. This is fun. It's not fun, but I'm anthropomorphizing, but you get the idea. We as biology, we judge and we set quantities on things. Those quantities are completely and utterly arbitrary and made up by us. And half the time we don't even think about it. Not half the time, almost all the time. We don't have to think that's hot, it's going to kill me. We immediately pull our hand out. That's our reality. That's our antis reality. The totus reality does not take our attributes of the world into consideration. And one of the quickest ones to think about is up and down. What's up and down? There is no up and down in the universe. There's nowhere you could stand to say, well, that's up and that's down, that's left, that's right. You could set any reference frame you wish to have ups and downs, but none of them are real. They're all made up. And again, this is where understanding the difference between our interpreted reality, or interpreted biosensory reality, which we consider to be real, is different from totus reality, which to my imagination unifies the entire universe as one thing. Antis reality creates separateness, creates me and you. I'm here, you're there, this is this, that's that. There's parts, and we could take the parts apart. That's completely an antis reality, an antis understanding of the world. And in totus, none of that exists. Nothing's separate. Everything's absolutely together. And that includes, when you read the book, all of space and time. We think of time as flowing through what? Flowing through this now moment. And so we live as consciousness in a manifest reality. We see objects changing state through time. And that's because we experience that. We think, well, the rest of the world, the whole universe must experience that. Snowflakes, but again, snowflakes don't experience that. Lava doesn't experience that. There's no experience about these antis qualities that we bring to the world. And this idea of manifest reality is where it really, really gets sticky, because we anthropomorphize the universe to be a manifest object. In totus reality, it doesn't manifest because time is unified in totus. Time as we experience it flowing, that's an experience of human perception. Totus reality doesn't experience anything, and time does not flow. So that, it's a pretty mind-boggling understanding of the difference between how we experience the world and what the world actually is.
Well, I think on that note, this topic is so huge that we don't do it justice with a 15-minute interview. Unfortunately, we do have to wrap this up. Do you have a website that you want to give out for your book, or a personal website?
I do. It's jjkazden, KAZDEN.com. And on that site, you'll have access to, all three of my books. I have a blog there, interviews, and reviews, all kinds of stuff on there. So you can go into depth on these subjects along with me in there. And I think it's, just wonderfully interesting to think about this stuff.
It is fascinating, and we could have gone on for hours with this.
Oh, forever. Yeah, totally.
But, thank you so much for coming on the show, and best of luck with the book. I hope it does well.
Thank you very much.